A week like this, it has been very intense, and so I'm extremely happy. I will take a couple of days off. It's
What happens to a nation when its greatest star turns his back at the very moment he's needed most? That was the question and echoing across Italy the day Jannik Sinner, the hero of 2 Davis Cup triumphs, the calm killer in the tightest moments, and the man who rewrote Italian tennis, suddenly withdrew from the 2025 finals. A single decision. And an entire country felt the ground shift beneath them. No slow build-up, no gentle explanation. One announcement, and Italy erupted. For nearly a decade, Italian tennis fans had lived with a quiet insecurity. They'd seen generations of promise, but never genuine dominance. And then Sinner arrived, a red-haired prodigy with ice in his veins and a Grand Slam resume that grew faster than the headlines could keep up. He became the closer, the man who finished the job when others flinched. In 2023, he saved Italy. In 2024, he repeated it. He wasn't just a player, and he was the identity of a nation hungry for greatness. So when he stepped away, everything exploded. Italian newspapers produced front pages filled with fury. Fans flooded social media with disappointment, confusion, and in some corners, accusations of betrayal. Broadcasters debated whether Sinner had abandoned his country for personal ambition. And deep inside that storm, one terrifying question surfaced again and again. Can Italy survive without the man who carried them? Even casual fans felt the tension. For a country where football usually drowns every other sport, the Davis Cup had become a rare symbol of unity, a proof that Italy could dominate globally in something else. Losing Sinner wasn't just losing a player, it was losing belief. Coaches whispered that the locker room felt emptier. Sponsors worried about ratings. Even former players chimed in, some defending him, others demanding he show respect. And as the headlines grew louder, one narrative took control. Italy cannot win without Jannik Sinner. But beneath the noise, beneath the panic, beneath the national drama, something else was happening. Something small, quiet, and unexpected. The rest of the Italian squad, players overshadowed for years, felt the weight shift onto them. Matteo Berrettini, Flavio Caboli, Lorenzo Sonego, names that had lived in Sinner's shadow, suddenly became the country's last line of hope. Pressure, yes. Fear, absolutely, but also a spark. A dangerous, fragile spark of defiance. Because if the story of Italian tennis had always belonged to one man, this was the first moment in years where the ending could be written by someone else. And as Italy stepped onto the Davis Cup stage without their superstar, the world braced for collapse, not knowing that the real plot twist was only just beginning. For days, the silence surrounding Jannik Sinner felt heavier than the controversy itself. Italy was shouting, debating, accusing, yet the one man at the center of the storm said nothing. And when a superstar remains silent long enough, people start writing their own stories for him, none of them kind. But then Sky Sports Italy released a single teaser clip, just 5 seconds. Sinner sitting alone, posture tense, eyes sharper than usual. In those 5 seconds, Italy realized something they hadn't expected. He wasn't hiding. He was preparing. When the full interview aired, it didn't feel like a tennis segment. It felt like a confrontation. There was no PR smile, no carefully rehearsed lines. Sinner looked tired. Not physically, but emotionally. The kind of exhaustion that comes from carrying a nation's expectations on your shoulders for too long. And then he said the sentence that changed everything. The focus shouldn't be on who isn't there. It should be on the players who are. A simple statement. Yet it landed like an earthquake. Some in the studio stiffened. The interviewer blinked, caught off guard. Italian media outlets clipped the line instantly, ready to twist it into a headline war. But if you watched Sinner closely, you saw something deeper. This wasn't arrogance. This wasn't defiance. This was a young man pushed to a breaking point and choosing honesty over appeasement. For the first time, he spoke about how every decision he made, injury management, scheduling, rest, was judged not as professional strategy, but as national loyalty. He spoke about how the spotlight had grown so intense that even his teammates' victories were ignored, overshadowed by endless speculation about him. And then he admitted something brutally real. It became unhealthy. People stopped seeing the team. That confession revealed a truth nobody wanted to acknowledge. Italy had become addicted to Sinner's heroics, not inspired, dependent. For a country built on pride, it was a painful reality. Meanwhile, the players actually stepping on court were receiving half the recognition, but all the pressure. They weren't being celebrated. They were being compared. Every match began with the same whispered fear. What would Sinner have done? In that moment, the narrative shifted. Not completely, not overnight, but a crack appeared in the national outrage. Because suddenly the question was no longer, I guess, why did Sinner leave? But rather, why did we expect him to play no matter the cost? Still, the backlash continued. Pundits accused him of disrespect. Old school legends called him too sensitive. Some fans felt he was lecturing the nation. But the players inside the Davis Cup locker room? They understood. Deep down, they knew his words weren't criticism. They were a challenge. A challenge to show Italy that the team was bigger than one man. A challenge to prove that they were more than shadows. A challenge to step out and fight not for Sinner, but with him, even from a distance. And whether the world realized it or not, Sinner's interview set the stage for one of the most improbable tennis runs of the decade. No one, not even the most optimistic Italian fan, could have predicted what happened next. When the Davis Cup finals began, the atmosphere around Team Italy felt like walking into a theater moments before a tragedy. Cameras zoomed in on empty seats where Sinner should have been. Commentators whispered about the hole he left behind. Opponents smelled blood. Austria were the first to face them, and many believed this would be the night Italy finally collapsed. But something strange happened during the warm-up. The Italian team didn't look nervous, they looked ignited. Matteo Berrettini, once buried under injuries and heartbreak, stepped onto court with the expression of a man who had run out of excuses and out of fear. Every serve he hit sounded like a hammer, challenging fate itself. The crowd expected fragility. Instead, they saw fire. He bulldozed through the opening match with a ferocity that hadn't been seen from him in years. Flavio Cobolli, the rising star, followed. He wasn't supposed to be the hero of a Davis Cup finals. He wasn't supposed to carry a nation's hope. But youth has a dangerous advantage. It doesn't know when to be afraid. Point by point, he dismantled Austria's resistance. Italy won the tie without needing to touch their doubles lineup. Then came Belgium, a team built on discipline, consistency, and clever tactical play. Many assumed Italy's first victory was fueled by adrenaline, that reality would hit them in the second round. Instead, Italy hit back harder. Berrettini played like a man resurrected. Cobolli played like a man possessed. And suddenly, whispers began spreading through the halls. Wait, can they actually win this without Sinner? By the time Italy faced Spain, a stacked team, a true powerhouse, neutral fans tuned in simply to watch the inevitable. Spain's depth was unmatched. Their experience legendary, their confidence unshakable. Yet what unfolded bordered on the surreal. Italy didn't bend. They didn't panic. They didn't even blink. Berrettini unleashed one of the greatest matches of his career, blasting forehands that echoed like thunder in Bologna's arena. Cobolli followed with controlled aggression, playing each rally like a man chasing destiny rather than defending expectation. Spain were stunned. Commentators lost their composure. The crowd realized they weren't just witnessing an upset. They were witnessing a transformation. Italy swept Spain. No doubles, no collapse, no excuses. All the narratives the media had spent weeks building suddenly turned to dust. The question changed overnight. It was no longer, why did Sinner abandon Italy? It became, how did we underestimate this team so badly? Inside the locker room, emotions ran wild. Players embraced, shouted, cried. It wasn't joy, at least not only joy. It was relief, validation, the feeling of finally stepping out of a giant's shadow and discovering you had grown wings of your own. And yet, amid the celebration, a quiet truth hung in the air. Everything they had done had proven Sinner right. The world was about to hear that truth spoken aloud by the one man whose voice could rewrite the entire narrative. When Italy lifted the Davis Cup trophy for the third consecutive year, the arena didn't erupt. It exploded. Blue smoke, tears, flags, voices cracked from shouting, but for a brief moment, all of it fell away. The cameras turned toward one man standing on the podium, his expression calm, almost reverent. Angelo Bonaghi, president of the Italian Tennis Federation. Everyone expected him to praise the players, honor the coaches, maybe deliver a ceremonial thank you to the fans. Instead, he stepped to the microphone and detonated the biggest twist of the entire saga. Sinner was right. 4 words. But they hit Italy harder than any forehand. He went on, his voice steady, deliberate, unshaken. This team did not win despite Jannik Sinner's absence. They won because Italy has built a system, a culture, and a depth strong enough to succeed in any circumstance. Our unity, not one superstar, is the true reason we stand here today. For weeks, the country had been divided. For months, the media had questioned Sinner's loyalty. But in one speech, the man at the top rewrote the story. It was a verdict, a correction, a national reset. Even the players felt it. Moments later, Captain Filippo Volandri took the stage, holding the trophy like it was a heartbeat instead of a piece of metal. His words trembled, not from fear, but from the overwhelming weight of the moment. "We felt the players who were not here," he said softly, as if they were standing next to us every step of the way. Sinner, Musetti, others who couldn't make the finals. Volandri named them not to diminish the heroes on court, but to honor the truth. Victory is never just about the faces in front of the cameras. It's about an entire nation pushing together, seen and unseen. And then came the history. Italy became the first nation since the United States of the late 1960s to win 3 Davis Cups in a row, a streak so rare, so improbable, that commentators were scrambling for comparisons. Some said it was Italy's version of England winning back-to-back Ashes in impossible conditions. Others called it the greatest team tennis achievement of the modern era. But beneath the statistics and celebrations was something far more meaningful. A truth finally understood. Sinner didn't abandon Italy. He wasn't arrogant, he wasn't selfish, he was honest. And his honesty forced Italy to discover its greatest strength. Not one hero, but many. Not dependence, but depth. Not doubt, but belief. And now, standing at the end of this journey, one question remains for all of us. Fans, analysts, athletes, and anyone who's ever judged a superstar too quickly. Do we truly understand the weight we put on the shoulders of our heroes? Or do we only realize it when they finally step away? If this story moved you, if it made you think, or if it challenged the way you see athletes, let me know in the comments. And if you want more cinematic sports deep dives like this, make sure to like, share, and subscribe, because the next story might just change the way you see the game.